Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. James here from Embark, and today we're going to look at wealth creation and how you guys can do it. Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will move the earth. That's a quote by Archimedes. Naval put this famous quote into his Twitter thread, How to Get Rich. The thread now has around 100,000 likes, 30,000 retweets, so pretty decent Twitter thread. He goes into depth on basically how to get rich. He would have titled it How to Generate Wealth, but How to Get Rich is a little bit more catchy. That's what we want to discuss today, so we're going to jump right into it. By wealthy, Naval meant in the thread that earning money in a non-linear fashion to the time that you put in. So historically speaking, the more time you work, the more money you earn, because you'd be based on an hourly rate, or even if you're on a consultancy rate, it's still per hour, regardless, or per session, whatever it is. Just because it's more money, at the end of the day, it's still a case that you're going to have to spend time in the office or wherever it is that you work in that scenario. So the reason that this isn't generating wealth, like you can get really rich by being a high paid consultant, but at the end of the day, you still have to be told what to do, when to arrive, how you're going to do things, what the procedures are. You're not free in the sense of making your own money and having a say in what you do. You're not completely autonomous. You can earn money for sure, and you can make a lot of money. You can get rich. You can be a consultant earning £500 an hour, and you can work however many hours you want that week, and you're going to earn a ton of money, but you still have to be there at that time for that appointment. And if you want to increase your wealth, the only way you can do it at that point is by working more hours or increasing the amount that you charge. This isn't real wealth. You can accumulate money, but you're not wealthy in a sense of being free and being able to do what you want, when you want. You don't have that freedom. Freedom is the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want. So if you don't have all of that, then you're not really wealthy. You might be rich, you might have a lot of money, but you're not really wealthy. Now, here's the thing. We know the physics behind leverage. You have a fulcrum and a lever, and the longer the lever, the more force that you can generate. Simple, right? But when it comes to the current age, there's way more ways to leverage now than there used to be. The bar has been raised on how much leverage we can produce. The way the world is built, connected, possibilities are endless when it comes to leverage. There's so many more things that we can leverage now with social media, network effects, things like that. So we're going to have a look at the previous ways that we were able to leverage, and then we're going to look at their benefits and their negatives, and then we're going to push through and look at the new age ways of doing it. You can leverage many things now to make your life easier. But more than that, you can leverage things to provide value and in return earn money. In Naval's thread, he talks about the 4 ways that you can effectively earn from leverage. So the first one is labour. Society overvalues labour leverage. It's the oldest form of leverage, and also therefore probably the most known because we are brought up with it through history. So instead of me out labouring in a field trying to gather as many crops as possible, I hire 10 people to do it for me. They're going to get 10 times more done, and I have to pay them a wage. Being the oldest form of leverage, everyone has evolved to understand what it is to have someone work for you. This is why there's a huge societal emphasis on becoming a manager in a business or in a corporation and managing other people in a team. The more people that you manage, the more power you have, the more influence you have. Your friends and family will judge you based on how many people it is that you're managing, because in their eyes that is the influence or the power that you hold over those people. We automatically assume that the more people that you manage, the better it is, but we know this is actually inherently flawed for a few reasons that we'll go over later. Managing other people is very complex and takes a certain type of leadership. You've got to keep everyone in check and happy. You're one step away from a mutiny every day, fighting fires and fielding complaints. Not only this, but Labour's very competed over. There's been endless wars throughout history based on trying to attain more people for Labour. Not only this, but it's the argument of workers versus owners, proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, communism, Marxism. Marxism's completely based on the fight against labour leverage. And ideally, you would stay away from labour leverage. You want the minimum amount of people working for you in order to keep everything running smoothly and operate the company as it should. And then you want to use other types of leverage to increase profits. So let's take a look at the next form of leverage, and that's capital. The last century has been dominated by capital and people building capital. This one isn't quite as intuitive as labour is. People saving, investing, moving money into the markets and out of the markets is a relatively new thing to happen. It's only happened in the past couple hundred years, really. People require more intelligence and understanding in order to use capital to their advantage. Capital is a harder form of leverage to use than labour, and it's the one that's actually got probably the majority of people wealthy this past century. You can see this by looking at who are the richest people. It's bankers, investors, corrupt politicians. Essentially, it breaks down to people who move large amounts of money around. If you look at the top companies in the world right now and look at the CEOs of those companies, excluding tech companies, the managers are effectively just money managers. They're finance managers. It's all about moving money around and making the money work for them within that company. And deep down, most people aren't happy with capital leverage and people utilizing capital to build more capital because they feel like it's unfair. It's invisible and then accumulated and then hand down generations and generations, and people utilize that to build more capital, whereas others who haven't got that opportunity struggle to begin with. Overall, capital is a very, very powerful form of leverage because it can be converted to labour leverage and it can be converted to pretty much anything else as well. It's very versatile because it transacts with everything else. And the thing with capital is it scales far better than labour. If you're good with money, you can scale it up as much as you need to. With labour, you have to hire more people and therefore then manage more people. And that's going to take huge amounts of time and energy in order to manage those extra people. But with capital, you can just increase the amount that you're investing or increase the amount that you're putting into startup businesses, and you'll still yield these large results. And the more money you put in, the more money you'll receive out when these companies sell IPOs or give you back dividends, and you don't have to manage it. You're just doing the same thing that you were doing before. Whereas with that increase of labour, that scaling of labour, you have to manage every increase of personnel that you bring on. The issue with capital is that you have to accumulate it to begin with. In order to utilise it and accumulate it further, you need to have some to begin with. Being accountable for results and utilising specific knowledge is going to allow you to accumulate capital pretty fast in today's society. Now we're going to have a look at media. One of the biggest things to talk about when it comes to leverage is the idea of products with no marginal cost of replication. And this is what we are starting to see now with people building wealth. By no marginal cost of replication, we're talking about utilizing media to leverage and basically mass market your message. So if I wanted you to hear me talk about this previously, you would have to go to an event in person at the local city town hall or a local expo or something like that, and that's the only way that you would have been able to hear me speak. And once I spoke, that's it. You're not going to hear that again. You're not going to be able to show anyone else. And that's the only way to do things. If I wanted then to get this message out again, I'd have to have another expo with another load of people, or I'd have to travel around and explain this to people at different expos. That's the only way that I'd be able to replicate what I'm explaining. The people who are holding the events would have been the gatekeepers. They would have charged for ticket prices. I would have seen a small percentage of that, and nothing would have really been in my control. I would be limited on how I could distribute. And now you can multiply your efforts without needing anyone else's help or anyone else's money. With the internet, all I have to do now is record this on a camera, post it online, and everyone who clicks on that will see it. There is no cost to replicate that message to each person who wants to view that message. That is the beauty of it. So the fourth way to build wealth is through code and coding. This is similar to leveraging media in the sense of there being no marginal cost of replication, and like leveraging labour, because you can have an army of robots effectively working for you. So with code, I can write a program that collects important data from a public website. I can package it nicely with different filters and different tables and ways that people can search through and find specific data points that they like, and then sell a monthly subscription for people to have access to that data. Programs are just executing based on what I have coded, and anyone who wants to view that data can, at no cost to me, at no effort to me. They can log in and view it. No worries whatsoever. For ages, people have been worried about the robot uprising. When are they going to arrive? When are they going to be here? And basically, we're already like halfway through the robot revolution. The reason it doesn't seem so obvious is that the first half has been very software dependent. And now we're pushing more into the hardware with autonomous cars, for instance. So the robot army is here, and it's not very smart right now. It needs to be told very specific orders, and the language it uses is code. Therefore, if you learn the language, you can then tell them exactly what you need them to do, and they will work for you. So real wealth has really been made the past 30 years or so. And the way people have been doing this is actually leveraging everything we just talked about together. Tech startups begin with really small teams, but they have a very high output. There'll be product designers, there'll be product developers or engineers. So sprinkle in some capital investment in order to scale and market, then finish it all off by leveraging code and media to get everything out there to the public. This is the special combination of leverage that tech startups use to maximize their efforts and maximize returns. So as mentioned before, capital and labour are the old ways of doing things, and media and code are now sort of the new ways of doing things. They're really good because they're permissionless. So what do I mean by permissionless? Well, simple. You don't need anyone's permission. So as I discussed earlier about the gatekeepers of an event, if I wanted to speak in an expo, there would be gatekeepers. There'd be people who would only sign up certain people to speak. They would pick and choose who they wanted to use. I wouldn't have a say in it. I would just have to apply for it, or I would have to build up enough expertise that they would choose me over someone else. But with media and code, it's permissionless. All I need is an internet connection, and I'm ready to go. The internet levels the playing field and provides equal opportunities for those willing to take it. With labour leverage, someone has to decide to follow you. With capital leverage, someone has to decide to give you money, or you have to generate it in the first place. But when it comes to posting on Twitter, uploading on YouTube, putting an article on Medium, posting on Instagram, recording a podcast, putting an image on Pinterest, writing an ebook, or coding, all of these things can be done by anyone as long as they have an internet connection. So guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. I think that's a really important lesson. It's one that if people were taught in school, they'd do a lot better. Everyone's taught at school that you just have to work for an hourly rate, and that's life. Try and get a high paying job. No one is taught at school how these things actually work and how you can leverage systems, leverage capital, leverage media to earn huge amounts of wealth, and it be not tied to your time linearly. You can have that exponential growth of wealth, and that's something that I'm looking to achieve. I know a lot of people are. Hopefully you understand it. If you don't, drop a comment below. I'm happy to chat with you guys. If you'd like to learn a little bit more, I'm going to tag Naval's Twitter thread below in the description so you can click through and read it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. This is James from Embark. See ya.